Hi, I'm Musa for 11B, and today I'm going to talk about the big nightmare of every 11 student, and that's the 20 English language A anthologies. And to not be all negative Nancy throughout this video, I'll only be talking about my two favorite ones, even though I despise all of them. I despise. What the hell is this? Even though I despise all of them. So, my two least detested ones are 127 Hours by Aaron Ralston and The Bright Lights of Sarajevo. 127 Hours is an autobiography written by Aaron Ralston that talks about his time as a climber and adventurer, but more specifically about a time where he lost his right arm to a giant boulder in a climbing accident, because he decided to go climbing without telling anyone, and yeah, because he's very smart. So what really got me interested in this specific anthology is the way Aaron allowed me to understand the difficulty of his situation by slowly changing his choice of language. It was clear that as his situation grew tougher, he became much less thoughtful, which was easy to identify through his writing. He was much less thoughtful and confident. So, for example, in the beginning of his adventure, when all is going well, he seems to be very confident and highlights his experience with climbing when he uses determiners such as another and this one, which imply that these are just another one of the many climbing adventures that he's been on and survived, which highlights his experience and evokes a sense of confidence in me and all the other readers. Additionally, he also uses a semantic field of measurements towards the beginning, such as 11 or 12 feet, a foot higher, 10 feet, which all show that he's being very careful and astute, as he's using his experience and knowledge to keep himself in control of his situation. Astute basically means like he's using his knowledge to allow him to like succeed in his. This sense of control and astuteness, I don't know if that's the word, but astuteness, is juxtaposed towards the ending of the text throughout the personification of Aaron's emotions, such as when his disbelief paralyzes him and his mind commands him. This shows how Aaron has lost control over the situation, as it seems his emotions are thriving at that moment compared to when it was his clear and precise thinking back then, or in the start, where he was like using measurements. Yeah. Additionally, the use of animal imagery in the phrase "I grimace and growl" shows the escalation of his situation, as it has caused him and his movements to go from precise to animalistic and barbaric. The last way Aaron Ralston allowed me to enjoy this text more is by his use of analogies, which allowed a total couch potato like me to understand the dangers of a climbing environment. For example, he compares the size of one of the stones to a refrigerator when he says refrigerator-sized chalkstone. Aaron really hit gold with this analogy, as I for sure know what a refrigerator looks like. It made it much easier for me to imagine the potential dangers that this stone could pose to Aaron due to its large size. Similarly, he compares the climbing technique to climbing up the inside of a chimney. Now, for me personally, I've never climbed a chimney, but I'm not sure about you guys. However, I have seen one, and I can through this However, I have seen one, and I can through this comparison. However, I have seen one, and I can. However, I have seen one, and I can through this comparison. Is it comparison or comparison? Hold up.
Sound. Comparison or comparison.
Comparison. I see. However, I have seen one, and I can through this comparison imagine the way Aaron is climbing through the tight spaces, and this made it easier for me to understand what was going on and enjoy the text more. Moving on from one tedious text to another, my favorite anthology from paper 2 is the poem Bright Lights of Sarajevo, which is a free verse poem written by Tony Harrison about war, specifically the Bosnian War, that took place from 1992 to 1996. In his poem, he observes the Sarajevan people's determination to not let the war stop them from living normal human lives. Additionally, it zooms into the relationship of a young man and a young woman at night and perhaps highlights the strength of love and life as he makes it seem like those are the Sarajevan people's chosen weapons against the war. I enjoyed this poem as much as possible, as it represented resilience, which is a value that I really attempt to integrate into my own life. Tony Harrison does a good job, maybe even great job, at highlighting the suffering of the Sarajevan people due to this war. One way he does this is through the use of semantic field of words that connote scarcity, such as empty, meager grams, rationed, queuing, to describe essential items such as bread, water, and gas. This shows how the war has caused the Sarajevans to lack access to basic human needs, and evokes a sense of pity in the reader. Additionally, the mentioning of how the Sarajevans would wheel home the refills in prams, which are meant to be used for babies. However, due to the war, these scarce items have become just as important to the Sarajevan people as their babies. The last thing I want to discuss is how Tony Harrison portrays a sort of paradox where nighttime seems to be safer for the Sarajevans than daytime. For example, during the daytime he mentions how they would be dodging snipers, whereas during the night he describes the people as black shapes impossible to mark, implying that the darkness protects them from these snipers. This is paradoxical because in our day-to-day life we usually see the daytime as the safe part because the nighttime monsters are usually hiding. Additionally, crimes are less likely to happen at daytime compared to night. Through this paradox, Tony Harrison shows us the unnaturalness, not sure if that's a word, of war, as it seems to go opposite what is normal and has the power to flip what we see as normal, further portraying to the reader the extreme effects that war can have. Assuming you haven't fallen asleep already, I'll be giving you 3 tips which may or may not help you during your wonderful time with these anthologies and English language A exams. Please use these at your own risk. Now, jokes aside, my first tip would be to ensure that you have read every single one of these anthologies. What I mean by read is sit down by yourself and read it like it's a book, 2 pages, 1 page of a book. Try to find your own opinions and construct your own ideas towards the plot, idea, and use of language and structure by the reader. By the writer. This will help you come up with more unique and original points to analyze, in addition to just ensuring that you're very comfortable with each and every anthology. Actually, I made a joke here, but I forgot to say it, so I'm gonna repeat it, so yeah. My second tip is to My second tip is to not leave out a single anthology that you haven't prepared for. At the end of the day, Edexcel does not care which one your favorite is, or which one you enjoy analyzing the most. Therefore, don't place your bets on anthologies, and instead just ensure that you're comfortable and give a fair chance to each one, to have a thorough understanding of all of them, so that you're prepared for whichever extremely interesting anthology comes up. My last tip is to practice. English, in my opinion, is a subject of practice. For example, the first time you write a question 5 response, or any answer to any of the questions to be precise, it's likely to be horrible. The second time you write it, it's going to improve a bit due to your teachers and peers' feedback, in addition to you just becoming more familiar with text and the process of analyzing and structuring a response. This improvement in quality will continue as long as you continue practicing. Third time, it's going to be better. Fourth time, even better, until eventually you'll get close to being as good as Ashley Kolako. And I'd like to leave you with a quote that I stumbled upon from a 68-year-old man on YouTube, which says, "To make something good, just do it. To make something great, just redo it, and redo it once again." Thank you for listening, and best of luck.